When you think about military power in the Middle East, two names probably jump to mind: Israel and Iran. Their intense rivalry really defines so much of the region's politics. So in this explainer, we're going to dive into how they stack up, head-to-head, across the air, land, and sea. We'll look at the numbers, the tech, and the core strategies that shape what they do.
And you know, the stakes couldn't be higher. As our source material puts it, this rivalry has really entered a dangerous new phase. This isn't just some academic exercise. We're looking at a dynamic that's shaping global events as we speak. So, let's get right into the nuts and bolts of their military power.
Here's the game plan for how we're going to break this all down. We'll kick things off with the war in the air, then we'll dive into what's happening at sea. We'll analyze a potential battle on land, and finally, we'll tackle the one factor that might just be the most decisive of all.
All right, first up, the skies. In just about any modern conflict, air superiority is often what decides the first move. It's all about controlling the skies so you can run every other operation. And believe me, both of these nations have poured a ton of resources into this.
So looking at combat aircraft, you see a pretty big difference right away. Israel's got 270 jets, mostly built around cutting-edge Western tech designed for super-precise, rapid strikes. Iran, on the other hand, fields about 130, and it's a mix of older American jets, some Russian models, and their own domestic stuff. So right off the bat, that's more than double for Israel, a huge advantage.
So yeah, that gap in raw air power is pretty stark. But, and this is a big but, air dominance isn't just about who has the coolest fighter jets. There are other layers to controlling the skies. And this is where the picture starts to get a little more balanced.
Take helicopters, for example. I mean, they're absolutely critical for things like close air support and moving troops. And here, the numbers are almost identical, with Israel at around 150 and Iran at 130. But now look at the air defense systems. Iran actually has more launchers, 400 to Israel's 300, and they're designed to make it incredibly difficult for any air force to attack. Of course, Israel's arsenal includes incredibly advanced systems like the Iron Dome and David's Sling, which are a whole different beast.
Okay, let's move from the skies to the seas. Naval power is so important for controlling trade routes, projecting force beyond your borders, and just overall strategic positioning. And in this area, a really fascinating contrast between these two nations starts to pop up.
And whoa, look at these numbers. They are wildly different. Iran commands a massive fleet of about 280 combat vessels. Compare that to Israel's 70. On paper, that's a 4-to-1 advantage for Iran. But, as you're starting to see, these numbers don't tell the whole story. It's all about the strategy behind them.
And this is the key difference. Israel's smaller, much more high-tech fleet is built for precision strikes, operating far from home. Iran, on the other hand, is all about coastal defense. They focus on something called asymmetric swarm tactics, using a huge number of smaller, faster boats to just overwhelm a more technologically advanced enemy, especially in tight spaces like the Persian Gulf.
And you see this exact same theme playing out under the waves. Iran has a fleet of about 20 submarines, mostly smaller ones that fit its coastal strategy perfectly. Israel has just 6, but its German-built Dolphin-class submarines are considered some of the most advanced conventional subs on the planet.
So this really gets to the heart of the whole comparison, doesn't it? It's this classic showdown, quantity versus sophistication. Again and again, we see Iran with a clear advantage in just the sheer number of things, while Israel's whole strategy relies on having more advanced, high-tech, high-impact assets to try and cancel out that numbers gap.
All right, let's bring it back to solid ground, the battle on land. Because as history shows us over and over again, many conflicts ultimately come down to who can control territory, and that means boots and tanks on the ground. Looking at main battle tanks, Iran's quantity advantage is on full display. They've got roughly 2,900 tanks. That is more than double Israel's 1,350. We're talking about a massive numerical superiority in armor for any potential ground fight.
And if you thought the tank numbers were lopsided, get a load of the towed artillery. Iran has around 2,200 systems compared to Israel's 200. That's not double. That's a 10-to-1 advantage. In a long, drawn-out ground war, that kind of firepower could be a really, really big deal.
So far, we've seen this consistent pattern, right? Iranian numbers versus Israeli technology. But things don't just stop with conventional forces. Now we have to turn to the assets that exist outside the traditional battlefield, the true game changers that could flip the entire strategic equation on its head.
At the end of the day, wars are fought by people. and Iran can field a huge active military of about 610,000 troops, pulling from a really large population. Israel maintains a very highly trained force of around 170,000. So just in terms of manpower, Iran has a clear and massive advantage.
But this is where this strategic map really starts to change. Ballistic missiles. Iran has a seriously formidable arsenal, with about 250 launchers. Israel, as you can see, officially reports having none. This ability to strike from long range lets Iran project its power all over the region and hit targets deep inside enemy lines, which completely changes how you think about a potential conflict.
We've looked at planes, ships, tanks, and missiles, all incredibly powerful. But there is one final factor, one variable that is more sensitive, more impactful, and more controversial than anything else we've talked about so far.
And here it is, 90. While Israel has an official policy of ambiguity, meaning they don't confirm or deny it, it is widely estimated that they possess around 90 nuclear warheads. This single, unconfirmed number dramatically reshapes the entire idea of strategic deterrence. It's the ultimate trump card in any potential conflict that threatens their existence.
So, that leaves us with the fundamental question that really defines this whole rivalry. After seeing all the data, what truly holds the edge in modern warfare? Is it having an overwhelming advantage in tanks and ships and soldiers, or is it having a single decisive capability that changes all the rules of the game?